morning sun, searching for a longer day. People feeling like the light has just come. We must never stop the way, yeah. Birds chirping and I hear my name, grasping into life. Life is happy but it's so insane. We must merely make a start. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a walk. Savannah. Lion's gonna come. The birds have just begun. We will always take a stand for the people, for the land. Let's go back to when we were young. For the animals we stand. Let's go back to when trees were swung. Kids across the land. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a walk. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a walk. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah. Rising with each beat of the music is bringing real flames in the fire that keeps burning. We're inviting the night in. Welcome, my heart so full, I'm devoting myself to the night. There's no motive, we're just listening, we're existing. We stay when the music plays, the louds drop below, and the people sway.
All right, hello everybody, welcome back. We are finally almost, touch wood, ready to get back into the action, but of course a few technical issues. We were kind of informed, thankfully, by all the admins and everything. There was an update late last night that changed what we had a look. It changed Sub-Zero and Biome. Some of you may recognize and have downloaded it, but for whatever reason, it seems to have messed up the loss bonus So they kind of had to go back and set up the servers and get everything sorted again, so that everybody was ready and obviously was getting that loss bonus properly as they should be.
Supposedly actually has been sorted now though, at least, so we should be ready to get back into the game in just a couple of moments. And of course, for those who may just be joining us, or people with a bit of a bad memory like myself, it was of course Tyloo who picked up that opening pistol round. So they got themselves off to a solid start. Perhaps no momentum to be carried over now, of course, after such a long pause coming in. But yeah, they got themselves off to a solid start, and it'll be interesting to see, because of course Big, with that new economy system, we could see them go for the eco, or maybe we could see them pull out a little bit of a tricky force buy. Yeah,
for sure. I think it'll be difficult in this situation, though. We're obviously talking about the economy a fair amount at this point. But Tyloo surviving with all 5 players, I think there was a fair few that didn't take any damage, makes for cheaper head armor. Therefore, you know, we'll be able to buy up a lot more going into the second round. So if Big opt to force, they'll be buying into a little bit of a stronger buy. But again, as we talked about earlier, as was mentioned on the desk, they're a really good team with that utilities. There's definitely a chance that they could buy up a little bit, get a bomb plan, and play things as we're used to, I suppose, over the course of CS, and buy up the rifles in the 4th round as opposed to what is newly becoming the 3rd round. But will still be interesting to see. Everybody seems to be ready and raring to go. You know, all got their headsets back on. I think with their technical pause that long, they will have been given a bit of a chance to maybe talk things over and just figure some things out. So we could see something interesting, but odds are it's going to be a little anticlimactic, and we're just going to go into the second round with Big just having a solid eco, I feel.
You would imagine so, just so they can focus, of course, on that first gun round, being able to get out the rifles and a bit of utility, being such a tactical team as well. It'd be something that they probably would be aiming for, not a team that relies too much on individual skill. So I'd imagine they'd probably try and avoid that force buy if they can. But yeah, as you said, we should be ready to hop back in just a moment. Everyone, as we can see, at least on the server, once again, we have a nice little view of the Tyloo players. You can see the screens, and it'll be interesting. We said, of course, coming into this one, it's a matchup that should be pretty close. A map that both of these teams kind of have as more of an even ground. It's not really the top map for either side. They've had some good results. They've had some poor results. And it's really just about how these two teams are actually going to match up against each other here now on this one.
Yeah, and the current state of CS, you need to have that deep map pool. So one map to permaban. These teams seem to follow that kind of caveat of the veto. So hopefully it should be a pretty good one for them. And that's kind of what we like to open up. It would be a bit of a shame to just see a complete whitewash, maybe if we did go towards a train or go towards possibly cash, you know, that kind of thing. I think it could quite easily have gone the way of Big, but here on Overpass it is definitely a map that both teams fare well on, like you say. Although obviously there still seems to be a little bit of waiting around going on for whatever kind of reason. But like we say, we've been reliably informed that should be getting back into the action relatively soon.
Yeah, we were informed that the issue was resolved at least, so that should mean we'll be hopping back in. And there we go, nice little view. We have the eyes; they're just staring right into my soul, Scriv.
Yeah, to be fair, he looks very angry. He is ready to get into the action.
Representation of Twitch chat after delays.
Maybe a little bit, but here we go. It does seem we're going to be getting straight into the action. Nice little smoke, of course, over towards Monster, and it is that solid eco pretty much coming in from Big. Interestingly, Smooya, who's generally the AWPer, sometimes Tabson, of course, sometimes both at the same time on that P250, but it is quite a large upgrade. I think that is sometimes, you know, often overlooked how strong that P250 can be, especially compared to the Glock, so there's definitely a chance that he could get something done. But ultimately, don't expect a great deal from Big. It's probably going to be a fairly easy one. Xscript does need to be a little bit careful here, though, with this M4 to not lose it, as he can eventually get overwhelmed. Doing a pretty good job so far, though, of holding down the short position, getting a bit of help in from Long as well to deal with Smooya, but a bit too late. So they have taken down that M4. Fair amount of money taken away, you know, 300 for about 6k or whatever it is. Tabson actually also picking up Bentet. Is some fairly good damage, especially because they're going to be pulling out the AKs into this third round.
Yeah, only investing into a single P250 and actually finding 2 kills is pretty nice. A bomb plant would have been an extra bonus, but either way, coming into this one, as you said, they have the AKs, they have a solid amount of utility onto all those players. And after the reinvestment comes in, there's not really going to be much money left over on the Tyloo side. A couple of FAMASs kept in play as well. There is, of course, those 3 M4s that they were able to carry over. Well, let's see what the plan is going to be for Big early on into this one. We said they are a bit more of a tactical team. They like the fakes here on Overpass. And that could be something that could definitely throw Tyloo off a little bit.
Just going for a solid default to start things off, it would look like. Ooh, bit of a spook boost and a push down short, but actually Tabson comes out on top. 7 HP, somebody clearly not ready for such a fast push to come in. You know, the Molotov maybe not really working out for him there, as often can be difficult to see over the top of it. Tizian as well going to find the head of Bentet. Really nice angle to refire, but of course that boost up that they pulled off earlier does manage to pull one back, but still it's a pretty solid advantage here for Big. A lot of control over towards A right now, and it does look like they are going to make their way in towards that A site pretty readily. Still going to be pulling the execute, of course. Smuya leading the way. There is Captain Mo here to deal with, at least for now, but only on that FAMAS. The one smoke, though, oh, it makes such a difference, Dean. There's 3 of them coming in from long. They've not actually got that push in from short, so they're just going to have to wait for this smoke and really can't do anything here. So it's actually rather beneficial for Tyloo.
Yeah, it's allowed for the rotation to come in as well, but we do see 1 kill being found elsewhere by Tabson. Smuya going for a little bit of a solo push there as the smoke begun to actually fade away. It's an interesting one. He allows for Tyloo to bring it back into a 2v3. But still, of course, the man advantage for Big. The question is, with so little time left, they really are in a position where they have to commit to that A bomb site. And actually, Tyloo have already rotated 1 player back down. That's going to leave Captain Mo to try and hold this one all on his own. He has the AK, has a flash to try and delay a little bit if he can get that in at a decent timing towards long. And he should be aware now as the smokes are going to begin to rain in. The question is, how long can he actually delay this one for? Instantly takes down Nex. Going to go ahead and try and find more, but traded out by Tabson, who was actually down to 7 health already, of course, after that early exchange. But I know the bomb should be planted, but Tabson needs to be careful. Pushing in through the smoke gives a chance for the one-on-one, but Gobby follows him up, and there you have it. The opening gun round does indeed go in favor of Big.
Yeah, beautifully read. Nice little trade towards the end. Again, that is that team play coming on through, but not so sure about that one from Tyloo. They're a man down. There's only 2 of them left, and they decide to solidly split the defense. You know, 1 on A, 1 on B. I guess that second player, Excura, was over at Heaven, but still, it would have been nice to have them both there, you know, especially with Captain Mo getting that first kill as they initially moved into the A site. Could easily have set up a little crossfire or kind of a trade fragging situation and pulled it back in their favor. But as it was, they were hoping for a crazy individual play, you know, a 2 or a 3K coming in from one of them. And that's just a little bit too much to ask at this point in time. So first going around, like you say, goes the way of Big. Only surviving with 1, so not quite solid on the cash as yet. But Tyloo as well on a relatively weak buy here, coming into round 4. But the CZ, of course, in a bit of an awkward spot. Does manage to find 1, but immediately traded. They'll certainly be happy with that, though. Any damage at this point in time for Tyloo is good damage.
Yeah, overall it was a pretty equal buy for both sides. Tyloo, of course, now being in a position where they have very little utility left, and they're still around a minute and 10 seconds on that clock, so that could be a real issue for sure. But look at this, Bentet up close on the CZ. Able to go ahead and quickly catch Nex off guard. Retrieves a Mach 10, but has to be cautious of that flank coming in from middle as well, but he manages to find it somehow. A kill also coming in towards that A-bomb site with Smuya falling means Gobby is going to be the last man left standing. Gets himself a quick headshot onto DD, but still 2 more players for him to try and deal with. He has the bomb, he has 40 seconds to work with at least, and it looks like he's going to maybe try and wrap this one back around. Oh, I believe this is a Heaven smoke, if I remember correctly. Probably find out pretty soon. Maybe using that for a little bit of a fake. It looks like he is still probably going to try and actually commit towards this A-bomb site. And I think that's actually where the smoke landed as well.
Yeah, a little bit of a Gobby special, perhaps. Excurate, though, is holding short. Making sure not to give himself away. Really sold on this position. Starts to move and catches out Gobby in the end. Nice little 2K for him. Tyloo win 1 back. And often praised and sometimes, you know, berated for their very aggressive style on the Tyloo side of things. In that kind of a round, though, when you have a bit of a weaker buy, it can really pay off. Catch your opponents off guard. That's definitely what happened to Big there. And just a little bit too much for Gobby to come back from in the end, unfortunately.
Especially with the lack of utility, that's when I like to see those more aggressive plays. If they had just sat back on the bomb sites, they really wouldn't have probably been able to actually contest well any executes that Big would have thrown at them. So yeah, it was a big play for Tyloo, ironically. And yeah, Bentet, I don't know how he actually managed to pick up that second kill on mid with that Mach 10. It was a fairly long range with it, I believe. Being traded out eventually, of course, by Gobby, but at that point, the 1-on-4 was just a bit too much for him to handle. And their pause coming in. I'm wondering what this one is. I presume this one's probably tactical for Big because it's beginning to slip away from them a little bit early on. They are, of course, on that T side. It's still very early days, and it's all about just trying to grind out those rounds. If they can pull it up to around 6 or 7, they would be really happy. But here we go. Back into the action. It is just pistols for Big. And it looks like they could be finding some contact early on because Excura is going to be looking to try and face over this mid-smoke.
They seem to be very aware of that fact, though. Oh, and he misses the initial spray down. That's a little bit awkward. So Shaw not going to go down, but the fact that he doesn't pick up a kill, it gives a fair amount of control over towards Big. Does manage to reposition it long, though. Good read from him. Drops the bomb. Recognizes that Nex is in close. Waits for the flash, but it's a little bit too late. And Nex, the timing works out for him. And AK going to be recovered. The only player with armor is Smooyer, of course, but still, that is certainly something. Somebody as well peeks out at the wrong time. Smooyer not quite able to capitalize, though. A little bit of a blunder coming in from him, in all honesty. But again, gaining small bits of control and making sure that the trades are there cleanly. Bentet with the FAMAS in at Optimus, able to pick up 2, and might just have swung the round back in their favor. He does indeed, as Captain Mo had rotated in. A good amount of damage, but again, it's that bare minimum of 3. Tyloo will be happy to start building up a little bit of economy and get another round on the board.
Yeah, they should find another round pretty easily because, of course, Big can't afford to actually buy into this one. We'll see some pistols being upgraded, a bit of Kevlar. You see Nex pulling that out. And they can maybe pull it out on a couple more as well. The Tech 9, yeah,
How do you feel about it these days? How do you feel about it?
It's better than it was after the original nerf. Of course, they buffed it up a little bit, the inaccuracy not being quite as bad as it was, but it's still not great. I've had some real trouble with it when I'm playing, but then again, I'm not a professional player.
I suppose. I think it's kind of a question of, like, you know, it gets changed and people feel like it's better, or maybe there's like a little bit of a placebo effect. But for me, I still think that the CZ is better than the Tech 9. The 5.7 is a different argument, to be fair. But I think that the Tech 9 is still kind of that weaker T-side pistol, but not as bad, right? It's kind of viable, but still not the best.
Yeah. If you're right up in their face, especially, that's when it can be really useful. So I guess it depends on the plan for the round, but
yeah, very true.
It looks like the plan for this one is going to be a quick approach towards that B bomb site, and actually it's a few kills coming in. Tizian and Tabson are going to be able to combine to bring it down into a 2-on-2, which looks to at least confirm the bomb plant, and Nex is able to win the fight out against Bentet. Suddenly, Execute is left all alone. A scout in hands and a 1-on-2 to try and clutch. And sadly, he doesn't expect Gobby to be below him. An easy kill comes in, and Big, they find that second round off the back of just a few upgraded pistols.
Yeah, I mean, we see it time and time again, right? We've done a lot of casting at this point, and I think you see a lot of teams lose 1 or 2 players against the pistols, and then suddenly everything just falls apart. Looking at Bentet in that particular round, he picks up 1 and then just kind of stays out in the open, right? Hoping that maybe he can hit a nice shot onto another. But the safe play there is get 1, kind of even things back up, allow them to get the bomb plant, just back off and wait for the rotations. But he just kind of stays facing, and it ends up costing full B control, and then there's not really a great deal that can be done from that scout player at the end. Now, of course, going to be forced onto the pistols. Nice little reaction shot from Tabson. Bentet, though, once again, not quite able with the CZ this time. He was in a little bit of a cheeky position, I suppose. Smooyer seeming to stick on this AK, working on the rifles, at least for now, and taking a pretty solid entry position at the moment, too. He and Nex just creeping up long. But yeah, you kind of, it's a little bit touch and go at the moment. Generally, we would say, again, just a few upgraded pistols, you would expect Big to take this round. But the way that it's been going, that's not been the case. So you can't really write them off at this point.
I'd imagine as long as no mistakes are made by Big, they should have a pretty easy time just keeping these trades in play. Yeah, gonna come onto the A-bomb site, Execute up close with the USP, maybe can serve as a bit of a distraction, and then the CZ's can have a small chance to try and shine. And DD actually is going to somehow still find the opening kill. The Molotov will eventually take him down. Smooyer coming in, waits for the flash, and goes ahead and just cleans it up with the assistance of Gobby. It's big. They find themselves a third round. Not too surprising considering they weren't up against all that much. But Tyloo still can't really afford to get a buy into this one. They're probably going to have to just go for the pistols once again. Maybe a little bit of body armor to back it up and see if they can at least make it a costly round. But we should be looking at a 4-4 scoreline after this one. And with Big being on the T side, they'll be very happy with that recovery that they've got so far.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the nature of the back and forth, is it can very, very easily just swing your economy completely out of control. It's kind of what we love to see from Big, though. Nice little Molotov in the previous round. Smooyer on the utility. Certainly something, you know, joining Big that people wouldn't have expected him to want to work on, but obviously getting his head straight, got the respect of some of his teammates and also respecting them as well. You know, Gobby and Tabson next being around for ages, so been looking really good for me, Smooyer, I feel, in this kind of past few months. I would say stint, but it's getting a little bit longer than that at this point within Big. And yeah, he is starting to look a little bit more consistent. He is starting to look a little bit better.
Struggled a bit at AM Chicago, I believe, though.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
Gobby needs to be careful. Does actually go down. That gives over not only the bomb, but also a rifle to Benta. And this is a scary player when he has this AK in his hands. Able to find the first kill. Being forced forward with that Molotov in play, but Tizian on the other side of the smoke is pretty low himself. Oh my god, spots out Tabson. So close to being able to pick up that headshot, but yeah, he's just been an absolute thorn in their side right now. He's making it costly no matter what, and he's actually still in it with a pretty decent chance to try and actually pull this round in their favor.
Tizian needs to be so careful. I think the best idea here is to either strike at the same time from both sides or move in together. It's just the fact that he has the bomb. That's the massive issue at this point in time. You can let him survive, you can let him keep the AK, but there you go. Tabson just with the reposition. Bentet, unfortunately, again, you know, in that sort of a spot, is going to be open to one angle at the very least, and unfortunately not able to secure it. But like you say, some really good damage done there, despite such a weak buy, and coming into now what is going to be our cleanest buy round for a while from both sides. The first round where we've got the AWP on both sides as well, Smuya and Excurate mentioned on the desk. It is a little bit of a sporadic fight. They can both run away with the game. They can also both be dead weight. So we shall have to see how this ends up going, their first kind of meeting. Although it does look Smuya going for a little bit of an unorthodox spot in towards the connector, but it's Excurate to open up. Tabson, he got an aggressive on short, doesn't work out for him, and now Excurate, he's going to move to a completely different spot. A little bit dynamic on the AWP. Really do like to see that from AWPers. And they're kind of leaving him to do as he pleases by the looks of things. He is sort of flying around the map, though, as he's now back towards B. Only one at A, though, Dean. I think that's pretty interesting from Tyloo. A little bit risky, perhaps.
Yeah, it definitely could be. With the fact that Benta is quite aggressive as well, if he had went down within the last couple of seconds, they could have been in for a lot of trouble, but the rotation now is come in. He has a bit of assistance back on the bomb site. And for now, Big are taking their time. Oh, that's a problem, actually. Gobby being burned a little bit by that Molotov gives that sound cue away. Bentet now aware that there's someone waiting at least over on the other side of this pilot's position. And he is going to be calling for the flashes to come in from his teammates, but ends up getting blinded himself and taken down by Gobby. With that now, Didi and somebody are going to try and have to lock down this A-bomb site on their own. And so far, it's not going well at all. Being absolutely torn apart as we do see Big get themselves full control of that A-bomb site. And with that, not surprisingly, we do see Excurate and Captain Mo just instantly call for the save.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a shame for Tyloo. It was well read, had that man advantage. It was relatively telegraphed from Big that they were going to be hitting that A site, but if you can't hit your shots, it doesn't really matter how good the read is, unfortunately. And that's kind of, again, one thing that Tyloo have been a little bit penalized on in the past is kind of having those advantages and then getting a little bit too comfortable, a little bit too complacent, and just throwing it away in the end. I suppose saving the AWP is relatively good for them, and it does look close here, but you know, recently it has been kind of the Big Show just running through these past few rounds relatively easily, surviving with 4 here. They started off with a deficit. They lost Tabson, who's, you know, arguably one of the best players on this team, if not the best, and they still managed to secure the round. So it is looking a little bit shaky for Tyloo. They need to kind of figure out what is going wrong and fast. I think a round like this, though, where they've survived with 2 rifles is certainly one where that, again, that aggressive playstyle can really pay off.
Yeah, just going back onto your point to Tabson, I'd say probably is one of the better players on the lineup. Definitely the most consistent. You know, of course, Nex can step it up, Smuya can as well, but as we said, they've had some high highs and some very low lows.
Yes.
But look at this one, a quick play in towards B, up against a couple of weapons, and other than that, just the pistols, of course. It should be a pretty easy time. There's only one player actually remaining on this B-bomb site now, and somehow actually somebody's able to make it work for a double kill. Takes down Nex and Tizian, but still, bomb should now be planted. A 3-on-3 retake without a defuse kit in play onto that B-bomb site. Not very likely that Tyloo will be able to pull it off, but I guess they could at least leave Bentet to try and find another couple of exit frags, because one thing they have been pretty successful at is doing the damage. They've kept the economy, I suppose, fairly modest overall.
Yeah.
Hasn't built up too well for the Big side, but this could get dangerous now. Gobby holds back 1, eventually peeks out and gets shut down immediately by Excure on the op. This leaves it all onto Smuya in a 1-on-2. They don't have a defuse kit, so getting that defuse in could be a little bit of an issue, but never mind, because Excure finds it. Bentet, of course, had already hopped onto the bomb, and it is going to be a close one, but I believe he has more than enough time to actually pull it off. And Tyloo get themselves back on the board. They do so with just mostly pistols getting the majority of the work done.
Yeah, it seems for both of these teams, the rounds that, you know, are well thought out, that start off well and nothing goes wrong, are relatively clean. They can walk over their opponents and it goes well. But when it starts to get a little bit messy, a little bit dicey, they kind of struggle when that pressure is on. You know, even losing to somebody CZ, you'd still, like you said, a lot of the time what we say in a round like that where you have limited utility and especially no kits is like, you have a chance before the bomb goes down, you could maybe overwhelm, you could maybe steal away some rifles, but as soon as that bomb goes down, it's like pretty much, it should be impossible to retake. You've got no Molotovs to push anyone out of position, no smokes or flashes to block off certain areas, and yet they still manage to get away with it. So it's rounds like that, the swing rounds, where it could be a problem for both sides we're seeing quite early on. It could be a problem if they don't iron those mistakes out. Oh, that's so unfortunate for Xcurate, you know. Looks away at the wrong time, and Smooth is able to take him down. A nice opening pick from Big early on into round number 11.
Yeah. As you would normally say though, Scrib, if they do manage to pick this round up over on the Big side, it would be a bit of a blessing in disguise with that reset coming in. And that's looking pretty likely right now, because Smooth has been able to find somebody, Captain Mo, forced to try and get aggressive on B. Sadly, only able to find himself the 1 kill before he's instantly shut down by Tabson. And with that now, it is a 4-on-2. You'd imagine at this point, Big, as long as they stick together, should have a pretty easy time, and they are going to begin approaching in towards this B bomb site. DD gets mollied out and still manages to find himself the first kill. Eventually will fall to Tabson, which of course means Bentet now all alone, but he's in a decent position. I don't think they're aware of this. He maybe can catch a player off guard or so, but bomb being planted. Tabson, the one on the bomb site with low HP, even if he gets taken down, he'll at least be able to find the info. Bentet finds the second through the smoke, and suddenly it's all onto Tizian. He has a defuse kit, the nade already been thrown in. Problem is, he doesn't have a smoke. He's going to just try and actually hold this one, it seems. Going straight in for it, and Tizian, he's beginning to push in, and he finds himself the kill. That was a close one, and definitely a lot closer than that round should have been. But in the end, Big do get themselves that 6th round on the board, alongside the reset onto the economy of Tyloo.
Yeah, a little bit intense once again, but like you say, that blessing in disguise comes through. It's a bit unfortunate towards the end for Bentet, I suppose, but not a great deal that he can do. He had hardly any information to work with on that final player, so the 1 versus 3 unfortunately does not come into fruition, and Big going to be resetting. That's a bit of a kick in the teeth for Tyloo, as again, you know, there seems to be a few issues. It was a relatively good buy from them, and such a strong start from Big. Obviously gets a bit dicey towards the end, but pulling it off eventually on that T side. Not the end of the world, only surviving with 1. But again, it's very, very back and forth at this point in time. It could really, you know, 1 round cleanly for one team could throw it by the wayside. Xcurate opening up on towards next. Opts not to get greedy for the weapon, just going to take the pick and back away. And we've seen Big, we've also seen Tyloo struggle with these types of rounds, whether against pistols, they fall down a man, and suddenly things all go awry. But Smuya is going to manage to trade one back. I'm not quite sure what that was from Xcurate. He gets tagged up and then peeks again. I'd like to say a relatively ballsy play, but at the same time, it gives a bit of a chance for Big to get into this A site.
Yeah, it is an interesting one, I guess. Probably Smuya would have actually backed off that angle after hitting the leg shot up against the dig, but did actually decide to continue holding it and finds himself the kill. But a little bit of a stack now actually coming in towards this A-bomb side. There's 2 players in position. Captain Mo can rotate up once it's called for. But it looks like, as you said, Big probably are going to go ahead and actually focus on this A-bomb site. Molotov's been thrown in to try and clear out those close positions, and DD looking tempted to maybe try and get aggressive, which of course could be a little bit of an issue. He's spotted out by Smuya now. They should have a good idea that he's pushed up close in towards the bathrooms, and Tizian is able to go ahead and deal with him pretty swiftly. But still, another couple players on the bomb site. There's a chance for Tyloo to at least try and make this one costly. Ooh. And Captain Mo on the dig just finds himself 2 quick headshots. With that now a 2-on-2, and time is becoming a real issue. Getting that bomb planted could be a little bit of a problem, but Smuya, he's there to go ahead and cover off. Somebody from behind is the one now with a little bit of a chance to try and find something else in the round, but it's not going to be allowed. Smuya with the game sense aware that that flank was a possibility, and he goes ahead and shuts it down. 7-5, Big, no matter what, they're in a good position now on this T side. But they do have the chance, of course, to try and increase that even a little bit further. Tyloo, they pretty much need to bring it up to 8 rounds now if they want to be happy with the result here on the CT side.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with such a strong start. What, it was like 4-1 at one point?
Yeah.
They had a really good chance of getting back into it. And then I think they actually lost a force buy round. So a little bit questionable from them in places. Tactical pause from Big coming on through to make sure they can solidify this first half, maybe get up to the double digits.
I'm surprised we've seen a tactical pause from Big after winning the last 2 rounds, but again, they were pretty close, so I guess they want to, as you said, make sure they can bring it up towards the double digits. But it's surprising because it also gives, of course, Tyloo time to actually go ahead and talk about what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's something that we've seen more recently, though, is like teams taking pauses while they're ahead. You know, it's something that a lot of teams have often struggled with over the years, where you take a pause when you're so far behind that maybe it doesn't even make too much of a difference. But a lot of teams, especially in a game like this where they respect each other, and obviously, like we say, it's very, very neck and neck most of the time, taking a pause while you're ahead, I think can actually help you out to just talk things over, to win rounds, not necessarily get back into the game, but to just keep on winning rounds.
Yeah, especially if you want to just try and switch things up if you feel like your opponent is beginning to get a little bit of a read on your approach to the game. But coming into this now, Tyloo, they're back on the bye. This is a very crucial round for them to pick up. Otherwise, I think Big will be looking at least that 9-round scoreline on the T side, which of course would be a very impressive result by them, especially with Tyloo having got a 4-1 lead themselves at one point. But let's see, because early on into this one, Big, they've gone ahead and gotten themselves some control towards the bathrooms. And I'm just looking at the weapons now in the hands of Big, and I'm surprised that for some reason Gobby has decided to actually stick onto a P250. Maybe a little bit of a misread on the economy of Tyloo early on.
I don't know, or maybe one of those classics, oh, I've not got a weapon, and he didn't realise.
Could be one of those.
Too busy on the utility. But we'll see. At the moment, it's all cool, but it is kind of, maybe if he ends up in a 1 versus 1 and he's got a P250, it's like a little bit awkward. But not a great deal of action so far, a little bit of trades here and there. This kind of works out more so for Big, I feel, because Tyloo aren't going to have that utility going into the latter stage. Dexter, a little bit of a late reaction from him. Has to smoke off and get away. That is a brilliant Molotov coming in. Pushes Captain Mo out of position before he realizes he's got nowhere to go. He's already on pretty low HP as well. So an easy pick up for Tabson. Got action on the B and the A site, but it seems the CTs are coming out on top of things at the moment. DD and somebody chiming in. Nice little double peek from them as well. Smooth, the only one remaining, and unfortunately he cannot get it done. It all falls apart after, again, a nice little opener from Big. It's a great Molotov, because we all know that's a highly frequented position by so many players, and it's just the entire area. It's either you push in towards short, somebody takes you down, or you push in towards monster, and somebody takes you down, in theory. But it worked out perfectly for them. The round, though, not so much.
Yeah, solid hold coming in from Tyloo there, but again, only surviving with 3 players means they do have to go for the reinvestment. They're in a position where losing 1 round would pretty much destroy their economy and put them down to mostly just pistols into the final round of the half. So it's pretty crucial here for Tyloo. They want to try and bring it up to 8. Ideally, they need to pick up these 2 remaining rounds. A nice opening pick coming in from Captain Mo, and this is a very interesting angle. I've never seen anything like this before, Scriv.
If you're not good on roller coasters, maybe look away from that one.
Yeah, motion sickness
a little bit disorientating for sure.
Bit of an issue there.
It's kind of cool though. I like it. A little bit of a different thing. You know, StarLadder always trying new stuff. Shout out to the Observer boys. But Smooya spots out Excurate, goes for the peak. They both tag each other up. It's kind of going to work out in favor of Tyloo, of course, already having that advantage off the back of the double AWP setup. Not something that we see very often from them, but it seems to be paying off in this round. And now I think because of that, he must know that he's tagged him up, so he kind of backs away, taking a bit more of a passive stance here on towards A. About a minute or so remaining. Big don't have much of an option to go elsewhere. Just going to have to work on the execute that they want to go for and hope for the best. I think this is kind of one of the struggles, though, for a team that is so structured. When that structure doesn't work, it's kind of, where do you go from here? You know, they don't have much of an off switch. It's just constantly on the execute. And he's going to start to come in towards this A site, though. A few flashes, a few smoke, some Molotovs to push some players into some awkward positions. But Excurate has not been dealt with as yet. Does manage to pick up another Bentet on the back of the site as well, using DD as great bait all onto Smooya. Tagged up from earlier on, and DD cleanly claps his head off. And it will be Tyloo taking a 7th round. And surviving with 4 players, it looks pretty good for them to take the 8-7 lead going into that second half.
And yeah, now with that, of course, Big going to be just forced down to the pistols. They themselves finally run out of economy. That's something that they had built up throughout the entire half and weren't really struggling with up until this point, at least too massively. And mostly SMG is going to be coming into this one. A MAC-10, an MP7, and then they've gone ahead and ensured that they have a nice variety of the pistols. A Tech-9, a Deeg, and also a P250 going to be coming into play so that they can at least get some utility to try and back things up. And it seems like we are going to have actually a pretty quick play coming in. Already grouping up outside that B-bomb site. The flash being thrown in so they can try and approach up short and close in the distance with those pistols. But the problem is they aren't given the chance to do so. Somebody in Excurate, they shut down the initial push from short. And then DD just destroys them as they come out a monster. 8-7 in the end. Tyloo, a good recovery to bring it back into at least a half that they can be happy with. But Big, with 7 on the T side, they're still in a really good position heading onto their CT.
Yeah, that last round, again, it's one of those things from Big that maybe they kind of do struggle with. A little bit too telegraphed from them. I think a fair few flashes coming in. You know, Smooya waited quite a while to throw that one from behind, and unfortunately doesn't blind anyone. So not working out towards the end for Big, but a nice little string in the middle, like you say, sets them up for a relatively good second half here. Overpass a map that I suppose more recently has become even, but classically is kind of CT-sided. And if you can get off to a strong start, get your economy rolling in the new sort of situation, it's a little bit difficult, I suppose. But if they can pull it out, then certainly could be off to a relatively good second half. But interesting kind of buy, no kit coming in from the CT side. Quite rare to see these days. But again, might have some ideas for it, you never know. And a fair amount of utility for the T side. So some relatively unorthodox sort of buys. So we'll have to see how they work out. Tizian going to get tagged up early on. Has to back away. So long control pretty solidly here for Tyloo. They look to get
be able to hear the footsteps though.
Yeah.
Normally you'd stick up against that left wall so your steps won't be heard, but they've gone ahead and made their presence known in that position, and Gobby now is under a lot of pressure. He has the utility, of course, not going to have any Kevlar to work with, meaning aim punch could be a problem. And already somebody actually been able to drop Tabson. I believe that was in towards Connector, it was indeed. So they're going to make their way down now. They've got themselves that control and have the option to take it in towards the B-bomb site. I mean, Smooya is going to be the one to try and actually hold that down, and being pushed back towards Graffiti, there's not really too much you can do to deny that bomb plant.
Yeah, just have to let it go through, and this is where I mentioned earlier, there's no kit for Big, so it's going to be very difficult on this retake here, especially a man down, firmly locked out of this B side. They have very little control to work with. Next does manage to finally trade one back for the CT side, but quickly being dealt with. Smooya going to fall as well. Excurate having a pretty decent round here, and Tizian, easy pickups in the end. So Tyloo getting both the pistols in this game bodes well for them, and again, very, very decisive from them, so they'll be able to build up that economy very early on indeed.
I think Tyloo now on this T side is where they can probably actually shine through a little bit more for themselves. It's been mentioned before, of course, that they like going for these fakes, etc. That's something that could definitely throw Big kind of off. It'll be up to Gobby to get those reads correctly, but going to be just a full eco again from Big. They're going to actually go ahead and allow Tyloo to find themselves the double digits, and then they will be able to find the buy into the next round. So their goal for this one, just see if they can find a few kills, at least maybe steal a couple of rifles away, and force Tyloo to have to go for some sort of reinvestment into this following round. Let's see, Tabson up close on the USP, going to be pretty quickly dealt with. Not really too much that he could get done. And then back on the corner next, he suffers a similar fate, sadly.
Yeah, Excurate pretty mental at the moment, by the looks of things. He had a pretty decent first half, and off to a really good start here in the second. Bentet holding for these flanks, hoping to earn a little bit of money on the UMP. Does spot out Gobby, manages to take him down in the quick spin around to pick up Tizian as well. So clean round from Tyloo. They get that 10th on the board. Some nice angles here. I like this one. This one's cool. I didn't even know that was a thing. The little elephant plush or whatever it is.
Yeah. Up in a party, I believe. You can see the balloons in the background.
Yeah, indeed.
But yeah, coming into this one now, Big, they will be able to get themselves the buy, but it's not going to be spectacular. Being on the CT side, of course, a little bit more to get those rifles out, so they will probably be lacking a bit in terms of the utility if they are actually going to go for it. And we can say that they have indeed. We can see exactly what the buy is. It's 3 AUGs, 2 M4s, and a very limited amount of utility, as I said a moment ago.
Interesting, to say the least. We'll have to see whether it works out. Obviously, again, you know, Big kind of being pioneering on these sorts of ideas with the AUGs. I think Gobby, people noticed very, very early on that he would, you know, have the AUG, and he's obviously got that silenced M4, so he can kind of switch things up. I think if you learn to use it, the AUG is kind of on par with that loud M4. Slightly different situationally though, so that's obviously where Gobby's going with it. But no AUG for him. He's on the silenced M4. Like you say, the lack of utility to kits, again, is kind of worrying. These initial frags going to need to go the way of Big. Tyloo kind of recognized the fact that there's going to be limited utility for the CT side, just slowly playing around, gaining control, expending very little of their own utility in order to get it. Tabson, though, with a great little angle here. I don't think he's going to check this. He picks up the first, backs away. Flash going to come in to follow through, gets a second onto Captain Mo. The flank is coming in pretty quickly, but he does also take down Bentet, but somebody in with a 2K. He's the only one remaining now in this 1 versus 3, though, as the rotations have very quickly come in. The bomb does get retrieved, but Smooya with the fade away manages to secure the first rifle round of the second half 4 big, surviving with that bare minimum of 3. A really good job from them, but Tabson, especially in it short, should have dealt with him a bit sooner on that Tyloo side.
Yeah, just been a little bit too kind of separated on the push there. Of course, they had the player coming in through the bathrooms. If he had just went for that peek a little bit earlier, it's likely he would have found that kill and denied the one from being found in towards short afterwards as well. And they could have actually found a 1-for-1. So, yeah, not going too well for Tyloo. They go ahead and actually call in a tactical pause here. And I believe we will see them pull out a pretty solid buy in this next round. They didn't upgrade in the previous one, of course. They kept a couple of SMGs and the Galil. And as you said, being able to take down at least 2 players over on that big side means that they have to go for a little bit of reinvestment as well. So there is a chance for them to try and come in with that reset onto the economy of big.
Here we go then. Round going to be getting underway. Number 19 as Big look to slightly get back into this one. It's been pretty heavily in favor of Tyloo kind of for the past 5 or 6 rounds, you know, across the 2 halves. Nice little Molotov coming in from them. Next will dodge it. Going to try and hold down this angle here just outside Monster. There's a nice little Molotov from Big that they use that pushed the player out of position there. Maybe Tyloo have learned from it and they'll use it themselves. We've got 4 Orgs now. Normally we see like 1 or 2.
Can never have enough.
I guess. Hawker would be loving it. I know he's a prominent AUG user.
Yeah, that's all he can use. Do you know why he uses the AUG so much? It's because when he first started playing, his friend lied to him and told him that the AUG was the standard weapon. Same with the
Okay.
Krieg.
So he's just so...
Yeah, he just got used to it.
So used to it.
Trolled. Big time. But yeah, an important round here for both sides. A little bit of damage already actually coming in on towards Nex. I believe he was caught trying to go for that jump peak. And there's still a minute remaining now for Tyloo. They haven't really advanced too far forward. They've got themselves that control in towards the water position at least. And it looks like Tabson is now going to be the one again that's going to be challenged. AUG again in his hands. In towards the bathrooms, a little bit of a different position this time. But he is being spammed through on. Brought down to 34 health, and that means he should be dealt with quite easily. A single point of HP now. He pushes forward and still somehow makes it work for 1 kill. Allowed the fall back off as well. Actually finds the man advantage for Big to work with.
Immediately traded, though, pretty much by somebody. The question now... Oh, God, B gets spammed down, though. Somebody, that's so well read. I was going to say, he'd snuck in. There was an opportunity for him to spray through the smoke and follow traces, but he opted not to go for it to keep the surprise factor in his back pocket. And now Tyloo in with the lead very quickly, going to be able to rotate down towards B, but they're not going to be ready for these rotations. Double spray down from Tizian, the third as well. A little bit of help from Nex, in fact. DD does get 1, but immediately traded by Smooya. The rotation so very fast from Big, and like I say, Tyloo just not expecting it. They get absolutely ripped apart on the cross to the bomb site.
Yeah, a little bit surprising. Didn't really have too much utility, I don't believe, to work with. If they had maybe even had a flash or a smoke to put down, that could have been a completely different outcome to the round. But good work by Big. Being able to chain the 2 rounds together, they go ahead and actually force Tyloo down to the eco now. And it doesn't look like they're really going to be able to upgrade all that much. A Deagle comes out, a few P250s, and their hope here is really to just try and drop a couple of those rifles out of hands of Big and ideally find themselves a bomb plant that actually boosts their own buy that'll come in this next round, of course. But let's see, Gobby looking confident. He's getting aggressive with his AUG. He needs to be cautious, doesn't want to hand that over to the pistol players. And he does realize that. He hears the footsteps coming up through playground. Decides it's best to just fall back off and work alongside Tabson in the connector.
Just playing things nice and slowly on both sides, really. Smooya, of course, getting aggressive, but there's no one here. He's a little bit late to the party, unfortunately. They've already backed away to go to actual party, I suppose. Kind of grouping up, hoping that they can catch someone off guard. Again, it is a relatively weak buy, but just the fact that you can put 5 players all in at the same spot, even with Glocks, it can be very hard for 1 player to deal with. But I think Big, especially on this A site, are stacking quite well. Tizian does need to be careful, though. He's going to very quickly meet some opponents here in just a second. I don't think he's got a great deal of backup. I think they've heard him as well. Managed to get 2, he spins around, Nex is there, Gobby as well, coming in from long. Like I say, he's got that support in tow, and Smooya on the long flank. It does pay off as he manages to get himself a nice little eco frag as well. So cleanly done once again by Big, and they manage to now even up this scoreline. So this next rifle round, Tyloo are going to have to pull it out of the bag. Otherwise, the German majority side are going to be able to start running away with this game.
Yeah, it's looking so. Still going to be keeping those AUGs in play. Surprisingly, Nex not seemingly upgrading off of that MP9. He's happy enough to carry that into this gun round. And it gives them a nice chance. A little bit of a bonus one, I suppose, is going to be coming in. But here we go. Tyloo, this is a round that they do need to pick up now. Otherwise, this game could begin to run away from them a little bit. They picked up both pistols and would have been 10 to 10. It's a little bit awkward, but look at this. A quick play towards B. Captain Mo to find the opening kill. And Tizian struggling in towards the barrels. Going to be quickly dealt with by somebody. And that leaves Nex now in an awkward position in towards short. He finds the first kill, but DD instantly comes in to ensure that the trade is actually brought into place. And with that now, the bomb being planted, and as we can see, Tabson and Gobby, they don't really want anything to do with this retake. They've decided it's best to just fall back off and save.
That's what Tyloo's known for, though, isn't it? The quick B hits. As it really did work out for them there in that one. I think Tizian was in a good position, did manage to hide away, but then just sort of popped up and shot a bit early. Perhaps pressure, nerves, that kind of thing. Getting to him, and then they do definitely check it after he's taken a shot. So all kind of hope for Big of maybe getting back into it, evening up the man advantage, that kind of thing. Just sort of thrown out the window when he falls, unfortunately. So Tyloo, as we often see, as soon as their lead comes into contention, they're able to pull it out of the bag, like I said. Nice little quick strat from them. And a clean take on B secures them the 11th.
Yeah, and a little bit of a pause, I believe, coming in. Curious if this is a tactical one or not. We don't have the information on the screen this time around, but it seems like we are getting back into things. Tyloo, of course, been able to get themselves that 11 round now. They put themselves in a good position, as long as they can go ahead and take this one as well, of course, because now the op does come out. Surprisingly, not on Smooya. Tabson actually going to be bringing that in. Of course, it was mentioned earlier on the desk that he is also a very capable opper, so he is going to go ahead and try and use that one coming into this. But look at somebody able to actually just walk straight up short. No one watching this position. The entire team now going to be pushing out off the back of this, and suddenly Tizian, he's just under so much pressure. He's the only one that finds a single kill. It's somebody to just go ahead and find himself a hat-trick. And even though Gobby finds one on the aggressive push in towards CT, it's still going to be a 2-on-3 retake that isn't really looking great. With 2 health for Gobby and an op in the hands of Tabson, there's not really much that they can actually try and do. They have to just back off again and go for the save. Yeah. But even with that coming in, their buy in this next round could be a little bit limited. Nex has enough to buy for himself. Tabson could drop one over. And I think because of that, they may actually go for the investment, but it will be a little bit limited.
Luckily, Overpass such a kind of large, spread out map, so I don't think Tyloo are going to do any hunting or be able to find the big players, really. But such a communicative error on that B site. Nobody watching, somebody just walks up. Not even that, I don't even think he was like shifting. He just kind of ran up and catches them all off guard. Really shouldn't be able to get away with that. And the thing is as well, he gets himself a 3K to completely demolish this B site. So if they'd have, dealt with him immediately, it could have been the round. It is those little things that can make such a large difference, and it's a massive blunder from Big, so close to the end of the game as well, like you say. Not going to have the best of buys. They are in a bit of a timeout here and hoping that they can maybe put something together, but it's really not that great. This is a very, very important round for Big to take, honestly. It could quite easily go the way of Tyloo if they're not able to clean things up here. As you can see, Gob is having a good little chat as he's just telling them, come on, guys, that should not be happening. Like, it is such a simple mistake, such a low-level mistake in many ways.
Yeah, definitely a miscommunication with no one watching it, and the first player just kind of being completely caught off guard trying to go for the jump peek. I'm surprised he didn't hear the footsteps, though. I
mean, there is that, but at the same time, you could definitely tell that Smooya was expecting that spot to be watched. The way that he was just kind of positioned. It's not the fact that, he was passively watching it or anything like that, and somebody gets in with a cheeky frag. He was completely caught off guard.
But we are back into the action now, Scriv. As I said, the buy is going to be scraped out by Big, but it's not optimal. They have the rifles at least to work with. They still have the op in the hands of Tabson that was saved over and a bit of utility to back it up. But this is a round that they do need. Losing this one will put them in an awkward position with Tyloo likely finding 14 before the guns come out again. So if Big want to keep themselves in this one now, this is a round that they do need to pick up. Tyloo are going to be taking their time early on. Just the default again coming in, slowly advancing forward to find themselves the map control. And it looks like Connector is going to be their main focus for now. With this, they can go ahead and actually just advance up into mid and take control of bathrooms again. And so far on the T side, this kind of has been the main position they've focused on. Thompson with the op needs to be careful. Gets that first shot off, but doesn't actually manage to connect it.
Just going to run away and go for the passive play as well. Does like to hold that crack angle, but it can be a bit of a one and done kind of spot. And when he's on the AWP, he's such a linchpin in this round. He needs to be getting multi-frags. Can't quite land the flick, but Godby is there to make sure it gets done. DD, however, catches tabseN off guard. Nex is here on the rotation. The fake coming on through. He spots the shadow out to take down Captain Mo. Molotov going to push him into a bit of an awkward spot, but that Molotov could be a difference maker as they're just trapped in the corner, but he's not expecting the second player to be there. Somebody in with the 2K all onto Tizian. Drops Bentet. The bomb as yet to be planted. There's only 15 seconds remaining on the clock. Somebody is a little bit all over the place here. He needs to get this bomb down or find the frag. He's not sure of what to go for, and I don't think he's given himself enough time. He was hoping that Tizian would chase, and that will be the round going the way of Big. He's just going to have to save it. A little bit of a misread, unfortunately, you know, going for the crazy highlight play rather than a safe plant. He could have easily just run on to B and gotten the plant down, but unfortunately, bit of a misread in the 1 versus 1. It does happen from time to time, but it will be the 11th round going the way of Big.
I'm surprised he tried to run it back down to B, though, because he was just like pretty much at the bottom of the stairs still. He could have tried to take it up to A. Really, the only option there was for him to just force that fight. And even though he didn't know it, of course, he did have a little bit of an advantage in terms of the health. He had the AK. It would have been likely just a single bullet he needed to finish it off. But in the end, he at least gets to save his AK over. Tyloo are going to be able to buy again. And with just a single player surviving, if they get the reset here and now, then they put themselves in a prime position to go ahead and try and take it up the map point. So still a crucial round for Big. They need to try and chain them together. And early on, Tyloo gone for some individual plays to try and get that map control. Can actually just fall back off. They don't want to try and take that fight towards water, it seems, especially with Godby showing presence in connector. They decide to go ahead and back off and wait and see if they can maybe just catch some aggression to find the opening pick.
Nobody at this point in the game wants to be that player to make the mistake. Everybody playing safe, playing passive. Not much room for aggressive, you know, spawn-based plays that we see earlier on in games. It's all very thought out, all very methodical. Excurate lining up the smoke as it goes on through. No flashes as yet to come in. They're just going to go in a bit dry initially. Drop Tizian yet again, not been having the best of times, but Godby trying to recover things back. Only gets the one. A 4-on-2 as Tyloo looks set to get the reset. And maybe, possibly, the game off the back of it. Next, with just an MP7, tabseN with that AUG. No utility really to speak of and no kits, of course. 2 men down. It's another save situation for Big. It's becoming a little bit too familiar for them at this point in time as Tyloo arguably up to 13, at least. Does look like they're going to be able to save what they've got, but yeah, Big really fallen off in this second half, in all honesty.
Yeah, I'm really worried because even with the save coming in, we do have, of course, a double eco going to be in play for pretty much the entire Big side. So the question is, do they force buy around it, or are they going to go ahead and try and take those 2 ecos? So it's just awkward because if they go for the double eco, of course, we'll see Tyloo likely reaching 15 before we actually have the guns coming out again. And then they're going to have to try and actually chain themselves the 4 rounds together to take it into overtime. So it's just getting awkward now. Since we've seen Big swap over to that CT side, I don't know if we've really seen them chain any rounds together. It's been pretty much back and forth. See, of course, Tyloo having a nice little discussion now, putting themselves in a great position. Of course, I believe pretty much everyone on the desk, including ourselves here, as the casters, of course, did actually predict Big to come out with the victory. And that doesn't look to be the case right now.
Yeah, this is the thing, though. You kind of hedge your bets with it because it's like you call it Big, but not quite as clear-cut as, oh, they're going to demolish this game. There is definitely a chance that those key rounds, if they go the right way, it could work out for Tyloo, and that's obviously what's happened here. So, at least for now, again, there is still chance for the Germans to get back into it. Beautiful flash in towards the T-spawn area. Bentet able to trade it, but tabseN is there with him. The buddy system, of course, ever reliable. Somebody, meanwhile, on the opposite side of the map takes down Godby, maybe not expecting such a quick reactive play from Tyloo. And now that they know there's been a lot of heavy pressure on that B site, they're going to very quickly set up the rotation and the execute onto this A site. But 2 players very quickly here. Nice little Molotov comes in. Captain Mo not expecting Tizian in the corner, but that is so very awkward for Smooya. He tries to get in with the 5-7. Molotov and a smoke in the way, though. Certainly easier said than done. Into a 2-on-1 for tabseN. No kit available, and he's just going to back away. No information to work with, really. Does not fancy his chances at all. Tyloo in with the 14th, and Big, they come close, but once again, edged out.
How long has this AUG been in play for now?
Yeah, that is genuinely a really good question.
I think it's been saved like maybe 3 or 4 times at this point in the hands of Tabson. So, yeah, there's not really much he could do. A 1-on-2. Maybe if he had a defuse kit, it would have been worthwhile going for. But I agree with the fact that he does just go ahead and back off towards the T-spawn to save. But problem is, of course, we said it was a double eco. Big went for the force buy. They don't have enough money to buy now into this round. So
it's kind of a force buy yourself into oblivion situation.
Yeah, either that or go for the eco and then try and play for overtime. And both of those decisions, of course, can be pretty difficult to try and actually come to. I'm not sure if Big have tactical pauses remaining, because if they did, this would be a perfect time really to call one.
Here we go.
They use 2.
Yeah, I suppose.
Well, they're not going to go for it. Another force buy going to be coming in as well.
Yeah.
So they're, I guess, kind of confident that they can maybe pull it off with these pistols. But if they don't, they'll be working with a buy very similar into the upcoming round.
They've put all their chips into these force buys. Nice little boost for Tabson, but once again, you know, he's good for maybe 1 or 2 kills, but not quite the big plays that they really, really need at this point in time. He's been saving more often than not, so it does seem most of the kills that he's getting are just consolation prizes. Oh, looks away at the wrong time as well. The flash going to come in, but Extra gets blinded up by it. That might just have worked out for Tabson. Up on the boost, does tag down the player that he spots. It's a very, very low HP, but not quite able to find the kill. They're going to have to back away, and it's not quite as successful as they would like. Just a tiny bit of damage. Still, obviously, with that superior weaponry, Tyloo going to have a heavy, heavy advantage. Things are starting to look dire for Big. Maybe, just maybe, these pistols can overwhelm here. Going for, you know, a little bit of a safe kind of setup. Not some crazy aggressive plays. And unfortunately, I think that's going to work out for Tyloo. They can just use the utility, bait out what Big have got, and then move into the site in the sort of final 30 seconds of the round, I would imagine would be the plan.
This could be risky, though. They're going to be walking into a little bit of a stack up on this B-bomb site. Pistol's playing up close, especially, and as you can see, Tizian finds the opening kill. The flash not going to be as effective as he would have hoped. Ends up getting taken down quite quickly. And with that now, the AKs begin to reign supreme, but look at the damage that's being done. Tabson able to find himself a double kill. Extra and Bentep both barely hanging on to life, and Tabson just shuts it down. That's why he saved that AUG 4 or 5 rounds in a row, because he knew it would eventually be useful. Gets it to go ahead and hold down that B-bomb site, and for now keeps Big in with a good chance of trying to actually get themselves the victory here.
And look at that as well, you know, player cam goes on to Tabson just after such a big clutch, the 4K coming in. He's just cool, calm, and collected. Really chilled out, keeping his composure, as they're going to need it. Don't want the emotions to show just yet. Still not quite out of the woods. But yeah, that AUG paying dividends. It was a beautiful flash as well. They all kind of came in from the same angle on the Tyloo side. They all got blinded up and just thrown off. Sure, they didn't all go down initially, but like you say, so much damage done. The high fire rate of that AUG really going to rip them apart. And on the back of that, it appears, you know, everybody else pulling out the AUGs yet again. Big really loving it here so far on Overpass. Some of the rounds it works out. Other rounds, I think it's kind of difficult because up close and personal is not quite as comfortable for that AUG as the loud M4, as even the silenced M4. So it is fairly situational. And a lot of the time, Tyloo like to get into the situation where they're just in your face.
Yeah, I'd imagine so in this round as well. I just seen that DD actually has a Zeus in this round. That's an interesting choice. Pulling that one into play, but let's see. Tyloo early on, they have around 55 seconds now left to go. They've got a little bit of control at least in towards Connector, but the problem with that previous round at least was that they had no control over towards A. It was too predictable when they committed towards that B bomb site, so this time around they've made a bit of an adjustment. They're going to be showing some presence. Benta and Captain Mo trying to get some work done up towards the bathrooms, but pretty quickly Gobby does actually manage to find the opening kill. They know that there's no one else pushing in as of yet, and Tizian, he's prepared on that B-bomb site. The AUG in hand, gets himself 2 kills, eventually being traded back on, but it's not a big deal because Big are still ready to lock that one down. It leaves it all on Captain Mo, and with only 20 seconds and the bomb on the other side of the map, there's not really much that he can do. This is going to be a 13th round for Big.
Yeah, they were fully aware of where he was coming from, and Nex a little bit close, 2 HP, but they do manage to clean that round up. Big seemingly back into the swing of things, but it is a question of, is it too little too late? They need to be very, very careful here, as there will be an eco for Tyloo by the looks of things. Full eco as well coming in from them, so looks like we're going the whole 9 yards at this point, Dean. Possibly to an overtime as well. As Tyloo don't expect a great deal from them in this particular round. Maybe a bomb plant or overwhelming. But then saying that, in that first half, we saw so many rounds with buys like these go the way of, you know, the side that had the weaker one. And there you go, GodB gets caught with a nade out very early on. Nice little bit of nade damage to be returned. The MP9 as well, going to tear through the unarmored opponent. So Smooya is able to save the day by the looks of things with a little bit of help from his friends. A little bit dicey for GodB early on, but Big will get that 14th. And now Tyloo going to have to pull it out in this next buy to take the game cleanly. Even then, that's going to be difficult as Big have built up a fair amount of economy in these past few rounds.
Yeah, we should see Big buying for the rest of this half no matter what. But the question is now, who's going to get the victory, or are we going to actually take it into overtime? It's the full 30 rounds no matter what, of course. And Tyloo now heading on to the bye. This is one that they do need to pick up. As you said, Big have built up a bit of economy over these past couple of rounds. On the other hand, Tyloo, if they don't manage to find this round with the guns, then coming into the next one to try and actually bring it into overtime, they'd be working with a bit of a weaker investment. Well, let's see. A decent amount of utility in play for Tyloo, and at least so far over on this T side, we haven't really seen any set executes. It's mostly just been trying to play off of that default and coming to a decision later on in the round. And already, Tabson able to snatch away that opening kill, takes down somebody, and brings it into a 5-on-4 early on, but it didn't really last very long. Nice trade from DD, able to catch Smooya off guard from Connector.
I think mentioning the default, though, it is quite a good point to bring up. It definitely can be very easy to read if you're just doing the very similar thing round after round after round. And a team like Big, an in-game leader like GodB, it's really not the best idea to become predictable. Because he certainly will read into your plans and tear them apart. But that was a little bit awkward from Smooya for sure in at short. Just once again, completely unaware of the fact that they could come in through Connector. Maybe a communicative error, maybe a little bit of a brain fart from Big Smoo. You never know.
Yeah, that's one way to put it, but still a 4-on-4. GodB looking to try and get aggressive. He's spotted out before the smoke actually dissipates and does get taken down. And that now puts a lot of pressure onto Tabson. He's trapped on this bomb site on his own for the moment with the up to try and hold things down. And for now, he's actually just going to go ahead and sit in the smoke, pushes through to try and deny the bomb plant, but he only finds the leg shot. And the problem is now it's leaving it all on towards Tizzy, and he's down on the B-bomb site. He has the AK in his hands, and although he does have a defuse kit with 4 opponents to try and deal with, and it doesn't look like he really wants much to do with the remainder of this round. It is going to be Tyloo finding themselves map point. As we said, Big will be able to rebuy into this next round, but it's just awkward. It's either going to be overtime now or Tyloo taking the win in regulation.
That whole kind of round, oh wow, okay.
Mid-air, fair enough.
Nasty.
that's one way to do it.
That. I think that little cam path as well is kind of sums up that round quite well. It was quite desperate from Big. You know, GodB, it's a 4-on-4, feels like he has to do something, but maybe not quite as clean as he would like, as we see it from DD's perspective. Easily spots him out on the other side of that smoke rather than going through it. And yeah, Tabson tries to do a very similar thing. And those desperate plays just really, really fall flat. Big not able to get anything off the back of them. And I think maybe it isn't needed. Just hold that kind of passive setup and play some crossfires instead, you know, or play a bit of a bait setup off the back of the AWP for GodB to work with. Instead, they just get crazy aggressive, and it really cost them. Captain Mo feeling the confidence, you know what I mean? Tyloo, after a round like that, it was so decisive towards the end. They are just playing, in a sense, and, you know, I had a chat almost like a year ago with Smooya about this. Playing against a team where they play like they just don't seem to care what happens can be so very difficult, and I think it is something that he does struggle with. And Tyloo in these past few rounds have been playing like that, just in-your-face Counter-Strike.
Nice return from Smooya. It was interesting to have GodB alone in Connector early on there, especially with just the shotgun, because it's unlikely he managed to really come out of that situation with all too many kills. But as I said, with Smooya being able to find the trade, at least it does leave it into a 4-on-4. Tends to favor the T side, but for now at least Tyloo, they haven't advanced too far forward. They don't have a lot of control to work with. They have the bomb for now still all the way back in the ramp position. And it looks like they are going to begin to try and favor over towards this A-bomb site. Tabson, if he can manage to actually shut down Captain Mo coming out of Connector, he'd put them in a great position, but he's pushing forward. He's definitely made footsteps, and he does end up falling to Captain Mo, who was waiting for that one. That leaves, well, rather, that gives a big opening now towards this A-bomb site. We should see Tyloo been able to just push forward and get themselves this control. Next on an MP9 though, he doesn't want to actually wait, pushes straight in, and it's Captain Mo who just continues to rack up the frags. Brings himself up to 4, looking for the ace, will be able to find it, and that's one way to close things out for Tyloo.
Yeah, certainly, but I think towards the end there, the ultimate failure for God B and Big was just kind of the fact that the team play seemed to fall away a little bit, and it became a little bit desperate in those final few rounds. Things just sort of messing up, you know, and really not quite as clean as they would like, and it really was a bit sad to see, to be honest. It seemed they didn't have much of a backup plan when their initial kind of setups and strategy failed. So kind of surprising to see. We expected Big to take that one. Sure, Tyloo only just edged it out, but all the same, it really was a little bit questionable from them towards the end.
Again, it was the swing rounds though. The 2 pistols being picked up by Tyloo. They end up winning a 16-14, really as close as it could have been. And I feel like Big are going to be a little bit upset with that loss there, because there was a lot of rounds that they shouldn't have actually fell in, and up against the pistols, for example.
Yeah, it is really difficult to kind of call at that point in time, but ultimately, you know, a great first game to open us up here, in all honesty. I'm quite happy to have casted through that one. Some pretty exciting moments, but towards the end, certainly did get a little bit sloppy from Big. Obviously, we'll be seeing them a little bit later on in that kind of lower bracket, but ultimately, I think Tyloo really impressing on that T side and throwing Big for a loop in a lot of places.
Yeah, and it was looking good for Big early on. They got themselves into a great position, been able to actually pull it up to 7 rounds on the T side. And as we said, then once they got over to the CT side, the economy being a little bit more vulnerable, they kept just falling to that reset. We've seen Tyloo, every time they lost the round, they were able to just come back in, break the economy a Big, and put themselves back in the driver's seat. And it's just an awkward one for Big, without being able to pick up those pistols especially. They're going to be upset with that loss, but I feel like they won't be too upset. They can come back in. They're not eliminated. Of course, it was only the first match of the group, and I feel like if they can recompose themselves, they can definitely come back into this one.
Yeah, for sure. Right, well, it does seem we are going to have a bit of an interview coming in from Drowl, and of course it is going to be with the winning side in-game leader, Bentet. Take it away.
Thank you very much, boys. It took 30 rounds, but Tyloo managed to get the victory over Big Clan. Now, Bentet, it went a bit back and forth, but you guys did manage to secure the victory. Walk us through that game.
Yeah, we just completely get a worse economy at city side, and X-Red, I think, only have 1 or 3 rounds used up because we didn't have money. But we tried to force buy, and it works. It works 2 times, I think. We bounce back, and then we get 8 at city side, and we know we can do it because we have a game plan at this side.
Right, now, Big, they have defeated you at the Faceit Major. They took you down at Star Series, but now you finally managed to get the victory against them. Did you feel any pressure going into this match?
Not really, because we play against them a lot, and we know their play style, and we watch some of their demos, so we don't feel really high pressure.
Now, finally, before I let you go, I believe up next, we are going to face the winner of Gambit or Hellraisers. Do you have a specific team among those 2 you want to beat?
Not really. I think Gambit or Hellraiser is going to be a close match, but we're ready to face any of them.
Right, well, congratulations once again. Please feel free to join your team again. But before we go, of course, attention all Twitch chat gamers. If you think you know who's going to be the victor of the next match here at SuperNova Malta, please feel free to cast your votes in the Twitch chat. Now, it's time to go to the analyst desk to see what our experts make of that match.
A Tyloo win. We all got it wrong, but Big. Again, it was just Tabson was there. He was doing everything he could do, but it wasn't enough for the rest of them.
I found that to be a really interesting game as well. Like, Tyloo managed to break their spirits over on the big side. You know, there was a couple of rounds there, like the somebody round. He goes down towards B, decides to come back, try to catch them off on A, doesn't work out. That actually provided Tyloo with the opportunity to reset that big economy, and that must have been such a heavy blow to their mentality just as they start to come back into it, and they're so close to victory. Yeah. Tyloo swing back in, and ultimately I feel like those last couple of rounds, the whole game was so close the whole way through. You know, you had a solid T and a solid CT side from Tyloo. They're equally, generally they put up reasonably good performances, reasonably even performances on their T and CT halves. So it was nice to see that they maintained the same level of steam as they moved through.
I think both teams definitely had hiccup rounds late, though, right? That somebody round, they could have just won that, and you sure maybe no need for that reset. Like, it could have trickled a different way. But the fact that they had that opportunity, they reset the economy, and then the pressure was on the Big. You saw Tyloo go for a fast B play, and then they lost against like a force by a low by, right? The CZs, that was the AUG in Tabson's hands. I thought what was interesting was that Tabson was doing the lion's share of the AWPing on the CT side over towards A, but Smooya, sure. The AWP over towards B, it's a lot more difficult to apply on a regular basis. So it's weird that they have that approach on their CT side Big, first of all. That's a no, but then I thought maybe the double AWPs were going to bail them out there at the end. Wasn't to be the case. Tyloo were able to get that victory. But if you look at it from a strategical standpoint, if you look at what Big were throwing at the side of Tyloo, their executes were much better on the T side. I think they overthought things in the sense of, you could see they did that A execute with the wall smokes, like the standard execute. They got control, they won the round quite easily. But then they would try to get a little bit too tricky. They did it, they went and they faked it, and they committed to their fake even though they had sold it. Like they'd actually, I think what they had forced Tyloo to do was actually safe. And then they were going over towards the B-bomb site, and there were more Tyloo members there than they expected. So a couple of rounds like that, which are just unfortunate, right? They're like coin tosses where you try to make the right call, you try and like force Tyloo to make a tough decision, and it doesn't pan out. It's a 50-50 kind of round. But in that situation, look, 16-14, you don't get closer than that.
No, and that's what it kind of comes down to. Now, we spoke about at the beginning, Tyloo, the fact that we're seeing them play overpass a little bit more. They've had some back and forth games, and okay, it's a map that Big can play, but this is proof now that Tyloo can pull out the bag. They can try and deliver on it. Yeah,
it's a good victory, right? It's a good map. It's good to see them strengthening their map pool, and that'll be the end of the best of ones for them, right? So now we're definitely going to get to see them play on a map which they prefer, and now maybe teams who were going to pick overpass as a weakness against them might have to reconsider. So, you know, you're really adding that to your arsenal as well. I think the big thing to note was, and I made a point of this, was Captain Mo and the fact that it doesn't seem like he's having a lot of impact. Well, here, especially in the later stages, he did have that much-needed impact to get them across the line. So the veteran there stepping up when he needs to, and I think that's his role in the team. Those impact rounds, when the games are close, he has to step up. The rest of the time, it's the young guns. Execute had a fantastic first half. Somebody obviously up there in terms of his impact. Ben Tat had a quiet game, but at the same time, when you win, it doesn't really matter. You're not looking at the stats, it's just that victory.
Yeah, not the end of the world if he doesn't show up every single time. And you were talking about Captain Mo there. Just on that last round, we were talking about it beforehand. It was potential that it could go either way. I very much thought that Big were at this point maybe a bit broken mentally, but then Captain Mo comes in swinging.
This round here, that round there that you saw getting finished off with the AUG was actually that close round with the upgraded. They had the CZs, they had the MP7. It was a relatively low or mixed buy. That's where I thought, hey, Big at this point. Now things are going to frazzle for Tyloo. They probably don't have that mental fortitude to stay in it. But this play right here, look at this. Big balls, Captain Mo getting stuck in, and that's the impact that you need from the captain.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I feel like if Captain Mo didn't step up there, if that round went towards Big and we saw ourselves in an overtime, that's where Tyloo maybe fall apart. We've seen them have those communication issues, and I think Big will be able to rally themselves back together to come into an overtime with some heavy steam. But ultimately, you know, they weren't able to do it. You know, that close out, that individual performance at just the right time to finish things off. He said we don't get much closer than that. Yeah, I got to say that was a really interesting game to open things up. And I said it towards the start, that's something I wanted to see from Tyloo, a strong opening performance here. I think when they move towards the best of threes, they might be a little bit more solid because they have got a decent enough map pool. If you see them on a Puggy style like Cash and Mirage, I think that they'll thrive there. And now they've obviously added Overpass. Like you said, that's going to make teams maybe reconsider what they're going to be vetoing up against these guys.
Now, for Big, though, right, this is not the ideal start. This is a team that we consider to be probably in the top 4 of this event in general.
Yeah.
This is a worrying sign, right?
Well, they said they considered themselves the favorite for the group. Now they obviously can't go out in that first place position, but they can still, you know, make it out of this group. I think if you looked at it, it would be them and then Hellraisers. Obviously, Hellraisers, they've only played 3 games with Hobbit, one which they shouldn't have played with Hobbit, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then on the other side of things, it needs to be Liquid and NRG, or at least it should be. So I don't think you can say this is bad from Big in terms of they didn't perform. I just think it was a best of 1 environment, first game of the tournament, obviously settling in. I still think that they should be a team to get out of the group, considering it's likely they go up against a Gambit. Like if I'm hedging here, I would say a Gambit next, and a Gambit with a stand-in most likely. So when you look at that factor, if you look at percentages, that's why we said Big should beat Tyloo. Well, that's why I think that Big should beat whoever the next opponent is. You know, but might not necessarily be the case. Counter-Strike at the moment, you have to almost analyze within the confines of the tournament.
Yeah.
You know, that's how sporadic a lot of games are getting now, right? You have to look within the form of a team within a tournament because it's so up and down at the moment. It's so difficult to put your finger on. I wouldn't be too disheartened if I was them. You know, it's the first game, like we're saying, and they don't have to play now until tomorrow, so they get time to practice a little bit more, sort everything out.
This is where I think they have that a bit of a problem up against Gambit. Maybe they are a sort of prep-heavy team, and you know, we know nothing about Gambit. We don't know what to expect from these guys. They've got those stand-ins coming in, a new refreshed lineup. So it's going to be very difficult to predict what they're going to be coming at, even in terms of what they're going to be vetoing. You know, we don't even know what maps they're going to be going for. So I think Big could suffer a little bit there. I do definitely think they're favored going into that matchup, but we thought they were favored coming up against Tyloo.
We should maybe like talk about worrying signs if they go out without winning a map, or if they go out within the next round, because then it goes, well, they have to go to Pro League and then they have a bad performance. That's maybe one of the last events for these guys until the major, right? You have to think about this. We're going player break. We're going from there into what looks like a very lull in the calendar at the moment, what is publicly available. So maybe they won't have too many more tournaments before the major, which then it starts to look at worrying signs they're going to be coming in cold, but maybe that's where Big do their best work. So many different factors to discuss.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? With Big, it's always about the preparations, the time they can put in. That's when they start to thrive a little bit more. But also maybe potential, like you said, with ESL Pro League coming up, that they maybe don't give their full information. They don't show their cards just yet.
Possible.
That's it. Something we said towards the start, right? Maybe this is going to be, with the Pro League finals coming up, a tournament that they take a little bit more relaxed. They look at it towards more of shining as individuals, maybe getting a bit of practice on a couple of maps instead of coming in and showing their full hand, and then when they go up against the higher teams.
What I think is unique as well is the fact that we're doing an analyst desk on a couch, and I have a mustache. Now, I don't know how much adult entertainment people watch.
Oh, no.
But we're going down potentially a dark timeline here.
Yours is a very dark timeline at the moment in terms of where your mindset is going. I was going to say I feel like Morpheus, and you've gone a completely different direction. I feel like I could offer people pills and give them a whole different direction.
On reality. Well, I'm giving you a different scope of reality right now.
Yes. I don't want to sit on that too much longer, Chad.
The couch or the point?
Just you in general, and that, like, my mind is traveling to places I don't want to think of you.
That's probably where I do my best work, in people's minds.
Ooh. Breaking it down in a whole different way.
Well, because I think like I give people like an expectation of me that's not real. Once they actually meet me, they're like, he's a lot shorter in person.
I can't really say anything about that.
No, that's not true either.
It's only when you're stood next to me.
I'm 6 foot, so it's like I'm the average height. I'm an average guy.
You're more than an average guy to me, Chad.
Well, yeah, I got a whole melancholy spiel about me. That's how I play life at the moment. I get out my tiny violin and I play it.
But you're living the high life.
Sometimes, when I'm on the aeroplanes.
There you go. Well, on that note, guys, we are going to go to a quick break, but when we come back, our next game is going to come up, and we're going to get to see actually how NRG can do first time around. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us. More action here coming up.